I texted Kenny.
I went way ahead.
You're gonna have a whole hazmat crew here.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna go out the steps.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. So, we ask you to please your eyes, fill your prayer and pledge of allegiance before we convene our commissioners' special public meeting. Fairly, Father, we assembled tonight to address compensation for some elected officials for future years, and we thank these elected officials and all our elected officials, local, state, and federal, that are willing to serve. May you provide them safety and wisdom. Now guide us as we complete the agenda, that we listen attentively, observe all the information fully, and decide fairly for the work that is performed. These things we humbly pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, we'll convene our commissioners' public meeting. And do we have any public comment on agenda items only at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the action items. Director?
All right, Commissioners, 2.1, seeking your approval of the following salary schedule for Lycoming County elected officials, specifically the Sheriff's Office. This is the salary schedule for 2026 through 2029. It'll be a 9.5% increase in 2026, 3% increase in 27%, in 2028, and 2% in 2025.
Okay, can you explain the reasoning behind me
Yes.
and with different cycles?
So the sheriff's salary schedule is out of cycle with the rest of the elected officials in Lycoming County. That happened back 60s, I believe.
Yeah, we had the sheriff here. You can maybe give us a little bit of history on that when you're finished.
And so it's always been out of cycle. And the last time elected officials' salary was set, all of the other elected officials, the sheriff's salary schedule had already been set, so he was 2 years out of sync. There was a recommendation made to try to sync that together, but since his schedule had already been set and approved, it was determined that we couldn't do it. So in order to make the sheriff equal to the other elected officials, that's why you see the 9.5% increase in 2026. That gets the sheriff equal to all the other row officers. And then in 2027, there's a 3% increase because that's the same increase that all the other elected officials are going to receive in 27. And then in 2028 and 2029, it's 2%. In order to keep everything equal, the next time that the rest of the elected officials' salary schedule is set, it would have to be 2% each year thereafter, or the 4 year.
Okay, thank you. And Sheriff, thank you for being here. And could you please explain the history of this? I know that you have that knowledge and shared it with me one time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners, Sister, Director, and Controller. Controller, acting controller, future controller, all those titles, right?
Yep.
I like it because you're the retirement rate.
Thank you.
This may be the only county in the state that has this, where there are all officers, including the three commissioners, the controller, the register recorder, voluntary, the DA, the coroner, the sheriff, and treasurer. All get elected in the same cycle. In 1964, and I got this story actually from then Sheriff Pauling, who was the predecessor of Sheriff Brewer, who I succeeded. Sheriff Pauling was very active in county politics, and he had recently come back from, well, not recently, he'd come back from the war. He was a World War II hero. I believe he flew B-29. He was a B-29 bomber commander. He would, when I would sit and meet with Sheriff Pauling, and we would be able to sit and chat on different dates, he'd tell me how he would go out on a mission with his crew. And at times, when they would go out and they would fly a mission, come back and half the bunks would be empty. He would have to receive more crew people because he would lose planes. He was fortunate where he wasn't shot down. He returned as a war hero, and he became the forerunner of PennDOT, which was then the Department of Highways. And each county had a superintendent. And he came back and became the superintendent of Lycoming County Highways, or the predecessor of PennDOT. So while he is in that position, he has a beautiful family. He has 2 boys. They go on to be ranking officers, commissioned officers in the military, and they have past years have very illustrious careers, successful military careers. They're small, and he has a beautiful wife, and at some point in time, his wife, who he showed me pictures of many, many times, loved her dearly, passed away. He got ill and passed away very young. Now, Sheriff Pauling lived in Elmsport. Up to 1964, there was another sheriff. I won't mention the name, but there was another sheriff who was the current sheriff who had to leave office. And the seat became vacant. And as Sheriff Pauling told the story, in those days, when you think about political history, in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, political parties were very strong. Local parties were very strong. He was asked to fill the seat. And as he explained to me, and this is right from Sheriff Pauling, he said he would like to do it. He would be the poster child of what a sheriff really looks like, not necessarily not the way I look as far as how I appear as a sheriff. He looked like a sheriff, 6'2", chiseled face, broad shoulders, big guy. He said he would be interested in taking the position, but he had 2 young sons, and I believe they just lost their mother. And he didn't want to take the position halfway through the term, because 64 is halfway through the term. He asked to have a 4-year term. I don't know how that happens back then, but it happened, and they wanted him badly enough. They gave him a 6-year term or a 4-year term. I believe it sounded to me like the party had a lot of authority and power to be able to do that, whether it was influence the governor or the commissioners or whomever. They gave him his 2 extra years. When they did that, that took the sheriff out of cycle. The sheriff runs 2 years opposite the rest of you. That, what the colonel described as far as the salary disparity, that all worked well from the increases that we got, because we all very consistently, when I first came in office, now almost 16 years ago, we all consistently got the same increases. Well, when there was discussion of our salary, and frankly, and in defense of what the boards of commissioners, the board before this board made a decision to increase salaries, because it was the board that came before this board was here. We row officers were the lowest paid leaders in the county. All 6 of us, except for the DA, because he's paid by the state. That's state set. So in an effort to just out of fairness, the fact that we know we work hard. You know, once was the day row officers and commissioners were looked at as part-time officials. That never happened with my 16 years, and most of all of us here have not had that luxury. But back in the day, I don't doubt that we were looked at more as casual or part-time level employees, which isn't the case now. In fact, the opposite is the case, where most of us work more than 40 hours, put in a tremendous amount of time, whether it's in the office, out in the field, or at home. So the increases were justified. The problem was that when the increases were given, the sheriff's increase was already voted on and made, which locked in what the amount was going to be for the sheriff, for me as the sheriff. So 2023, 22, 23, 24, and 25 is my term. So 22 and 23 are okay, but we got to 24 and 25. The other 5 row officers got the increase, and I couldn't get that increase. That increase that they got then is what you've approved now for the next term, whoever may be the sheriff on the election, which will bring everybody in line with where they need to be. The caution is, and I'd ask the commissioners when you put this in the files, the caution is if there's an increase again, if it's not 2%, there needs to be that consideration, because otherwise, if the sheriff gets the increase, sheriff position gets the increase first, then 6 row officers are going to get paid, 5 row officers are going to get paid less than sheriff. And that shouldn't be. And that's what happened in my situation, where, and I was at 2%, I believe, and everybody else was brought to what was reasonable as far as what the board of commissioners thought we should get. And I was caught. The only remedy to that is there has to be a realignment of the sheriff position. It's either got to be, we either got to do a 2-year term at some point or a 6-year term. The only way you bring back in alignment the election, or anything above the 2%, or if it's, you know, if it's 2%, we're there. But if that's more than that in the future, you have the same dilemma.
So, not to interrupt you, but maybe I was thinking this while you were talking. What is the logistics of doing a 6-year term? Is it legal?
It's a it would be a statutory change. It would be, we would send it to probably local legislators, present it. That could be changed at the state level. There's a pro and con to that. The con is it's going to be somebody has to be far enough out that everybody's going to know it. So someone's going to run for a 2-year term, and know they're going to run for a 2-year term, and there's going to be another election, which isn't necessarily appealing, or they're going to run for a 6-year term, which may not be appealing. So you got to do one or the other to get the alignment back to where it needs to be.
And this has been going on for 60+ years.
Oh, it's been going on since 1964. Yeah,
60 years.
since 1964. I don't know the mechanism by which the change was made, but it's been that way for a very long time. Now, I will tell you, as a sheriff who's had 4 campaigns with 4 primaries and 4 generals, there's a very positive side to being alone when I run, because you all run with the gang where there's a gazillion signs. And when I put my signs out, my signs are billboard size, and I'm the only guy, I'm the only position running. I may have opponents, but it's the only position we run, except when we had jury commissioners or have a special election or election for judges leaving. Now, I did have, you know, my first run, I didn't just run at the sheriff position was the only one. If you remember when I first ran, we had 4 judge candidates. Because Judge Anderson and Judge Gray were retiring, we had the 4 judge candidates, 2 of which were elected, who also ran. So it was a really big field then. But my other 3 campaigns, it was just the sheriff and local government. So, but the only way, Commissioner Macera, that we change that is it did have to be a 2-year or 6-year, appealing and not appealing, and it's, you know, it's tough. 2-year campaigns, you can talk to our state assemblyman. They'll tell you, all they do is run. You know, that's an editorial I'll give you. That's one of the faults I see on the federal level, that our federal legislators or US representatives run every 2 years. All they get done doing is running for office, seeking support, seeking financial support. And I don't know how they're able to focus on our needs at times, because they always have to run. They get elected this year, they got to run next year. And that's the way our forefathers did it. So we might be challenging our forefathers. But it would be a challenge to change that. And that's what happened. That's how this whole thing came about. This increase wasn't, for anyone who might listen to this or read this, this increase wasn't something that was thought of or brought up by this board or this month or this year. This started back, actually, when I had to have when my salary had to be set, and when the elected official salaries had to be set, which is 4 years, you know, respectively, either went out 4 years ago, or 2 years ago. You guys are in third year. You're in third year, second year. So 4 years, at least 4 years ago, we started to structure this. So it isn't like, if anybody wonders, well, they just did this year for Sheriff Lusk. That wasn't how that was done at all. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the action items 2.1?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next one.
All right, 2.2, Commissioners seeking your approval of the following salary schedule for the Lycoming County elected officials, specifically the tax collectors. In 2026, they would receive $3.75 per bill. In 2027, they would receive $3.75 per bill. 2028, $4 per bill. 29, $4 per bill.
Okay, is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, oh, is there any commissioner comments?
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but, you know, as people will read the 9.5 and get scared, I just want to reiterate it. It's making the sheriff, who is an equally elected row officer of the county, at the same income levels as every other row officer. It's something that should have been corrected, and proud to say that we're the board that's correcting another long-term wrong. I'd also like to make the comment and thank Sheriff Lusk for being here, because Sheriff Lusk is not going to be the one that gets all this new pay. So
That's a good point.
it's very appreciative that you're here in the support of it, and you're not here for yourself. You're here for the county and what's right for the county, and we appreciate that as well.
And we had asked back in December, we knew this was not on track with the other elected officials, and we wanted a remedy to it. So I want to thank the director for sitting down and speaking to the sheriff about the history of it, and making sure that the recommendation be brought back to us to correct the inadequacy.
I guess I should clarify that if he chooses to run, he will get that, but he is not guaranteed this, because he has to run if he wants that. And as for the tax collectors, it's the same thing. What we have faced in this county is it's been a loss of tax collectors. And the way the forefathers laid it out is the tax collector is supposed to be somebody in your local neighborhood who everybody knows and can communicate with. And we've lost a lot of that because they can't make a living doing it. Not that they're there to make a living, but they're spending more money than they're making at doing this. So this will only help hopefully get some more people to run for that position in the next 2 years ahead as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Commissioner, just some info that might help identify or explain the 9.5% increase in 2026 for the sheriff's office. This goes back to 2024, when the adjustments were made to make all the other row officers equal. And there was an 6% increase back then. So it's catching up and that's
Right.
where we are now.
But it's correcting a wrong,
Yeah,
which we need.
yeah. Okay. Any other commissioner comments?
No, Mark said it very well.
Thank you. Public comment? Any online?
On
Great, we've completed our agenda, so we'll be adjourned.